Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks of plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I'm your Minifigure host, Matt. Let's belt on it. Welcome in, everybody. How are we doing today? We have nothing but plants to discuss today. Beautiful plastic plants. But we've got some really cool plants, and I honestly think you're going to like them more than you might realize. These Lego plants, man, they are doing some things. They are making their way around. So anyway, that's what we're going to chat about today. We've got 3 of them to talk about. We got a smaller one. We got 2 others. So let's go ahead and kick off into the first one. We'll start small here. It's always best to kind of get this out of the way. I shouldn't say out of the way, but move it along to get to the real meat of the things that we want to talk about today. So the first one up is just simply called daffodils. It falls under the botanical collection. If you're not familiar with the botanical collection, you are missing some really cool things that Lego has done and continues to do, especially in the past. I mean, if you look at the bonsai tree, that was an incredibly cool build that a lot of people really, really got heavily into. And it's still one of those things that I'm assuming it's still being sold. But I know it was one of those things that seemed like it was always selling. You could always get yourself one just because people were always looking to them because it was a unique build. It is a unique build. Plus, it's something you can put on, as decor and stuff like that. Anyway, back to this set. The daffodils 40646 is its set number, 216 pieces. It is currently available if you are so curious. And it retails for a cool $13, which is nice. You always want something fairly cheap, not super duper expensive or anything like that. So with these daffodils, you have white daffodils and you have yellow daffodils. You have 2 of each. Now they are pretty much identical in their build. Well, I should say they are identical in their build, but can you really expect anything different considering the price point and the size and everything? I would assume not. So the main focus of this thing is obviously the daffodil, the flower, the petals and stuff like that is going on right there. So the stem of this thing is just made up of a bunch of little Technic pieces that use those red pins to pin them together, the little red Technic axle to pin all that together. You do have some big old plant leaves that are on a click hinge on the side that allow you to get the leaf in that upward position. You could even go so far as if you wanted to make these taller to fit a certain vase or vase, you could absolutely do that. Now, when you get to the top, what is really kind of neat is this almost reminds me of a wind generator, like a windmill. They're becoming super duper popular in Texas, especially out in West Texas. And when we go road tripping, we see them all the time. Anyway, they use shields here, not Nexonite shields, but actually like shields that were used in, pirates, definitely castle. Those kind of shields, right? I know they were used in when they did Fort Legorado. I've got some of the Native American shields in here still, the painted ones. Anyway, so you either have white or you have yellow, and each of these has 6 of these shields. They are attached by a gold bar to a centerpiece, and the centerpiece is a very unique, we'll just call it a unique connector. So what it does is it allows you to fit 3 bars. It has 3 bar receiving holes on this in a triangular pattern, and then it has 3 actual like mini bars that allow you to clip things to it in a triangle fashion as well. Anyway, so you have 2 of those. One holds 3 petals, and then the other one holds 3 petals as well. And then instead of them overlapping, you just have a gentle turn to the side so that you get that completely filled out look. Real simple, but I really like the way that was done just because they're just kind of tucked in there underneath the handle for the shield on the back side of it. So the very front of this, what you have is you have a yellow satellite dish that is holding onto like we'll call it a 2x2 orange cone, right? It's more than 2x2, I guess. Tall. It's a couple bricks tall. I believe it's 2 bricks tall. Anyway, but you've got that cone there that's supposed to be that part of the plant, with all the pollen and stuff, all the nasty stuff for that time of the year that's about to roll around. However, neat little design. I really like the way that they use the shield pieces here. I thought that was a really unique way of getting it done because let's be honest, there are many, many ways that you can go about things. This is just a different approach to it, and I really appreciate it. The other thing that I really like about this is we've seen flowers of this similar price range before over the last few years that they almost felt a little bit more dinky, a little more weak in nature in the way that they look in comparison to their counterparts, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But I actually feel like these are actually pretty solid for their size and what you're getting for the price. So really, really good stuff here. And like I said, your white ones, your white flowers, it's just white shields with white bars behind them. And then you have the yellow satellite dish with the orange cone, brick cone in the middle. So those are nice. It's nice to have 4 of them. It's not just 2, but it's nice to be able to get. And then you can also, like I said, you can extend the base if you want to add them to whatever is going on with some of the other stuff. But these are meant to be just kind of minor, almost independent from any other kind of botanicals thing, just because they are so small. But it is nice nonetheless. So next up, what we need to talk about is the dried flower centerpiece. This is obviously new as well. This set number is 10314. 812 pieces, retails for $50, 50 euros, or 45 British pounds. The interesting thing behind this is more of, in my opinion, this is more of like an almost American style. And the reason I say that is because the lead designer behind this is Chris McVeigh. If you know anything about Chris McVeigh and what he has done for the Icon series, there's a lot to his name, just like the rest of the team. Absolutely. I'm not knocking anybody or anything. His style is just definitely different in comparison to what others have done. You can really tell a difference when Chris is working on something versus some of the others, and vice versa. You can tell when some of the other designers are working on something from the line of Icons versus, when Chris or any others are. So the really neat thing about this set, they use a lot of unique pieces here to be able to get some really unorthodox looking shapes with the flowers and everything. And I'm really, really impressed with how it all came together. I mean, there's not a moment where I was like, well, that's kind of dumb. Why did they do that? No, it was more like, wow, what made them think of that? I mean, when you're talking flowers, you really got to kind of, dig deep into your inventory, your part inventory, and look and say, well, what can we use? Because it's got to look like a flower at the end of the day. It's not some little janky looking flower. It's got to look like a real thing. And I think they really managed to get this yet again, just like they do year in and year out with the botanicals. They knocked it, out of the park again, so to speak. Anyway, the first thing I noticed about this after I completed it was the size. What I was expecting was much bigger. What I got was not as big as I thought. When they were talking about centerpieces, and if you get more than one set, you can connect them together, and you can do this and you can do that with it. I'm like, great, I'm going to have this massive centerpiece like we already have right now on our kitchen table. And then I was like, oh, I can't do that. That's not going to work. But it is really cute for what it is for its size. And I'm not saying it's a horrible thing. It was my expectations that it was going to be larger than what it was. Even looking at the part count, which I guess I should have thought about a little bit more in depth, because you don't realize how many small pieces are used here. But either way, so you do have a few different options here. And I want to talk about these first before we really get into the main flowers and stuff. So one of the last bags, it's bag 7. One of the last bags which you have is you have this opportunity where you can kind of part your flower in half, because you build it in 2 parts, 2 sections. And the build is pretty much identical on each side, minus the 2 main flowers in the center. So aside from that, everything's the same. It looks pretty. It's gorgeous. It's nice looking. But if you want to have this big centerpiece, the only thing that you can do is buy multiple kits. multiple sets of this. And in bag number 7, they have you build this little 90-degree elbow that you can use because you can separate the sections. They are just pinned into one another. Separate it, attach here, attach there. It gives you even the instructions on how to do it, whether you want to use a bunch of them or you just want to use another one. There are a whole bunch of different ways that you can do it, which it's nice. I'm going to use this loosely here, modular style. It's nice that you have the ability to be able to take it apart easily enough and not have to worry so much about messing up anything else. If you're trying to, make this bigger bouquet type idea. The other option that you have with this, you could either just sit it flat like it is right here, or they actually have chosen for you to hang it on the wall. You have the option to hang it on the wall. And I'm not a big fan of hanging art on the wall, because it's such a pain in the butt, in my opinion. This isn't as bad. However, so what they have used here is they have begun with these before. They are 2x6 modified plates that have a hanger on it. And they first use these pieces in the dots theme. So it's not, I don't want to say it's not novel, but it's not the first time we're seeing that part. It is the first time we are seeing it though in this theme, which is always a good thing because you usually don't see that kind of stuff with flowers very often. So you do have the option. You want to sit it out or you can hang it either way. I have not decided whether or not I'm going to hang mine on the wall or not. It does look pretty. I did sit it upright like that, and we will talk about that in its entirety here in a moment. So the main thing about the build that you notice right out is you have this big giant flower that is in the center that has its leaves are kind of hanging out and stuff like that. And that is accomplished by using oar pieces, like actual rowing oar pieces, which is absolutely fantastic. I did not expect that. Now, I'm not talking about the oar that has the bar attached to it. I'm talking about the mini oar that can receive a bar in the end of it. So you have a bunch of those, and they are put around this center section, which is made up of a steering wheel piece, one of the bigger or more modern type steering wheel pieces. And what you have there is you're just clipping onto little robot arm type clips and shoving the end of that into the bar here. This is in dark red. The clip pieces, the little arm clip pieces are in orange. So you have a really nice color variance there. I didn't realize what the name of this flower was. It's actually called a dark red gerbera. And it's really makes up kind of the focal point as far as, like I said, the colors that you're looking at here really kind of suck you in. And there's nothing here that is super duper bright other than maybe the orange. But everything else is kind of a neutral, kind of a calmer, color, earth colors, as they like to say, because you can never go wrong with those. Anyway, so there's also a minifigure hat. Usually we see these like with the Asian style themes like Monkey Kid or Ninjago, usually for like the bad guys or, Wu. That's not Wu's hat. Anyway, so that's there in the center for this flower, the gerbera. Next to that, my dear goodness, this has to be my favorite design of the entire set. I mean, out of everything in here, this has to be the coolest little design. My favorite flower by far in this whole thing. My favorite little plant piece in this entire thing. I love it. And as simple as it is just a rose, but it is a very gorgeously done rose. And the unique thing about it is it does use a new piece. There's a new mudguard piece that they are using here. And so on the beginning of this thing, you're clipping things into place at the bottom. And you have 4 little mudguard pieces. There's one on each side. And then you are slightly offsetting them. When you clip it into place, it is just slightly askew to the one across from it and obviously adjacent to it. But the interesting thing is, if you have ever looked at the decoration, like actually stopped and looked inside of a flower, a rose in this case, and how the petals are almost kind of entwined into each other, that is what they accomplish here. And I don't know how this came to Chris and his team, but my God, they couldn't have done it a better way. So you collapse these little wheel well pieces. They're new wheel well pieces. They're 2x2 plates, and they have not a full arching wheel well. I can only imagine we are going to be seeing these in Speed Champions at some point in time. Something like that. New city stuff, anything. I can only imagine. However, so once you kind of collapse those together, then you have the big flower petal pieces, and these aren't new. So they have two little mini bars on each side, and you clip those into place. Again, they are slightly askew to the one across from it because you need that flower to close up. And you do the same kind of thing. You kind of close in a little bit at a time, and they're all kind of interwoven into one another. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous in the way that it is done. It was one of my favorite parts of building this. Like I said, a lot of the other things were semi-repetitive because you're building a flower or building a design here where a lot of the things are mirrored. So what you have on the left side, you have on the right side, aside from your two main flowers in the middle. So when you have that, when you come across something like this and you're like, I've never seen this done before, like this is perfect. So that flower and the gerbera, the rose and the gerbera, they clip into position. You've got that. You're done. Everything is solid. Everything looking good. You got your two main elements there. Well, there's a lot of other things that they elected to do as well. So out on the sides, you have two giant dark red leaf pieces, and they are just supposed to kind of be like the base, the backer of this entire thing. And then as you realize what is going on here, you have just a little bit of this, a little bit of that. They use some of the very, that kind of really weird looking green. It's not a sand green. It's like it's almost like that really mauvish olive green. They have those for the pine trees. They have those for some of the leaf elements. They have those for some of the new cornstalk type pieces, that we have where you can put corn on it. You can put something else on it, how you can build those up. It's just another vegetation type piece to help build vegetation. Anyway, so you have those in those colors, which is great because people that like to do custom scenes, people that like to make custom plants, they are absolutely going to enjoy having those, especially in that kind of more of a drab color versus just a brighter, standard green, Lego green. So one of the other cool things I really liked was the little bulbous yellow flowers that they have here. And it's simply done. I know it's just simply done. Little standard flower pieces, the ones where we just have just like the size of one stud, nothing big or crazy or wild, but they look like bushes. They look like bushes in the way that they are done because you are putting a number of these little actual pieces onto a brick with holes on the side of it, pop, 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 pop. And you have that. And it gives it nice texture. It gives it some nice depth. And then the colors there as well. It's not bright yellow. It's that very neutral, reserved yellow color. If I'm not mistaken, it might be cool yellow. Anyway, so you have some of those. You have a lot of greenery as far as like actual plant pieces here to kind of fill things out on the bottom side of this. So around the center section of it, that is where you get most of it. And then out towards the ends. And those are just simple plant elements. Like it's actually supposed to be like a leaf piece that has all the holes in it. You know what I'm referring to. We have those in like a lighter brownish color. And then that same really reserved olive green color. So you have those as well. Again, trying to build up that foundation, that base and everything, and just kind of cover the underside because you don't want to see all the ball joints that everything is connected to. Pretty much everything on this is attached by ball joints, just about. The only things that really aren't are kind of where, like I was talking about, those plant pieces that have the holes in it. Those are attached to actually brick assemblies and stuff like that. Everything else is kind of attached in by those ball joints, which again, you don't want to see that kind of stuff. So as I'm making my way around, because I'm just going to kind of go around the entire thing because it's identical to the left as it is on the right. But on the far left or on the far right, doesn't really matter. Out on the ends though, you have these really unique pieces. And I didn't know I knew what the piece was. I've seen the pieces before, but I didn't know what it was used for in regard to a plant. And I was like, okay, well, what are these? So they're called nested crown elements. It's basically like an upside down broken egg. We've seen them with all kinds of different things. Like I've seen them with, I think the Jurassic series has definitely done something like that, but usually Habitat stuff. Anyway, so they have these and they're stuck together on a bar. Just absolutely just smash, 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 smash. It's supposed to be stalks of wheat. It's like, that is ingenious. Now it doesn't have like if you look at stalks of wheat, you kind of see like those wispy, feathery type pieces that stick off of it. It doesn't have those, but leave that to your imagination. But so you have two of those on each side that run along that dark red background as far as plant pieces go. And then you have this other really unique piece, which again, I've seen it used in Technic, but I've never seen it used this way ever. And I think initially it was one of those weird things of like, well, what is going on here? Why are we using so many of these pieces? 13 of them, because they're just basically a gear style piece. So I didn't even know what this was as well. So pearl millet stalks. That's what these little plant pieces are, that you're making, are used by stacked wheel gears, conical wheels, gears. I get it, but where do you look around the room and you're like, you know what? Let's use these. We could do that with these. Let's just, you know what, Bob, let's just throw 13 of them on there. Why not? And I will tell you, I am ungodly thankful it wasn't thrown on a bar. At least it was thrown on a Technic axle so that I don't have to worry about aligning them. When I finally realized, because I was not in 100% paying attention mode, but when I was watching this, I was like, oh, thank God. I got the first two on. I was like, oh, I don't have to worry about aligning them, because you do with the wheat stalks. You do have to align those. So something else that I found really interesting was that the design team chose to use these little pumpkin pieces. We've seen them for like Chinese New Year stuff. Always for Chinese New Year stuff. We see the little pumpkins that hang down as they're supposed to be like lanterns and such. It seems like that's always a thing with that theme. We see it in Monkey Kid, Ninjago from time to time. Not so much anywhere else. And I actually learned something new. They're actually they're called bladder cherries. These little plant pieces, which I had no idea that was even a thing. But again, they use this piece that they use it for pumpkins, the lanterns, all that kind of stuff. And they're attached with these brown whips, which are attached to cones, which are attached to little mini axles that attach, that have a ball joint on the other end that attach into a receiving ball joint. It's really wild in the way that it is done. By the way, you get a ton of extra whips. I went back through my instructions probably no less than 5 times. And I was like, clearly they're in here. Clearly, I did not miss. Where is this? Where is that? Nope. I just have a bunch of extra whips. I don't think whips are usually an extra piece, but I definitely have more than I need. So that's always nice, I guess, to be able to get. So you do have those little bladder cherries that are going on there. They're kind of tucked in on each side, which is kind of cute, really nicely done. So back to like the corn stalk-esque type pieces. I think that's where the first time we've seen them, right? Was with the city stuff. However, they have little green leaves on there, like the little 3-pointed leaf. And that actually has a big white flower on it. And you just kind of build it up and, eventually it does ball joint into place, which is nice because that works. And then you move the flowers around a little bit to get that to kind of cover up, for the most part, you can't see all the ball joints and you're not focused on it. Unless you know they're there, you aren't focused on it whatsoever. I can be 100% honest about that. So one of the other little plant pieces that is used here, I thought was really cute as well. I guess I shouldn't say cute. Somebody's going to smack me for saying cute, but I recognize these from a long time ago, from my childhood to be specific. And these flowers that they use here are in orange. They have a little white center, but the way that they are done is you take three of the classic style shoulder pad elements for the minifigs. I'm going to try and say this name, the epaulette. I think that's how you say it. They first used these in 1989 for pirates as Imperial soldiers. I was like, oh my God, because I recognized it from my childhood. So you have a bunch of those. You have trios and stuff like that of those flowers in different spots. So those are really nice. And it's a really nice part usage for something so, I mean, I wouldn't say critical, but something that's really kind of unique in its own right, as far as flowers go. And it's not like they're pointed in a downward, they're facing up. So you have the texture around the top of that element as well. And then you have the 1x1 round plate that you tuck in to solidify them into position, which is absolutely gorgeous. And then the last little plant that I wanted to talk to you about are the dried daisy heads. They use the white crown elements. It's kind of cool. I didn't even know this was the name of this element. It's called a rare rock element. They use, I believe the first time they came out with this new version of it was with Lego City when they had the mining stuff, but they have that tucked in there as well in that gold color. A lot of cool stuff going on. All these little plants, all these little ideas, all these little nuances that you get to enjoy, that you get to build, always adds to a unique building experience. It just allows you to break out of the mold and just do something different. And, you know, I've built every single one of the botanical sets since they've come out. This was a very unique parts usage. It was also a very unique building space. What I mean by that is the physical space of this. There's not any real way of picking this up and not feeling like something may come loose. Now, nothing does come loose, but you have to get to the sides of it. If you can get to the sides of it and under it, you're fine. You basically have this giant brick built tray that everything is attached to, which is great. And it's nicely done, but it's kind of a pain in the butt to pick up. And at times it's also a pain in the butt to kind of get some of these things either clipped in, or I should say ball jointed into place is probably the biggest issue. But as a whole, I really like what it is. There's a lot going on here. If you're somebody that likes color, this may not be the best for you. Like if you're looking for flowers that have a lot of pop, which we'll talk about with the next set we're going to talk about, this may not be the best thing for you. If you're looking for something that you can hang on the wall, that you can put on top of a table, that you can put on top of a side table, anything, this is probably going to be a better fit for you just because it is more reserved. It's not going to be a focal point. I would say very much so if you were looking for more of just a chill piece, this would be it. So before we go sniffing any more flowers and, you know, playing with petals and stuff, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. So let's move on to the last set we're going to talk about today. And man, oh man, I mean, this thing is incredible. It is called Wildflower Bouquet 10313. This thing has 939 pieces, retails for $60, 60 euros and 55 British pounds. It's incredibly gorgeous. Just like I had mentioned with the last one, if you aren't somebody that wants a lot of color, you go with that one. If you are somebody that wants a lot of color, you go with this one. There is a bunch that is going on. And the other thing that is unique is it is not just that last set that we talked about that has unique parts usage. No, we get pirate captain hats here and all kinds of good stuff. I mean, using minifig heads anytime is always a plus. I mean, to be able to use minifig heads on anything when it's not supposed to be, yeah, I'm all in. Now, one of the coolest things about the bouquet, any of these bouquet sets, the one, I think it was the one from last year as well. Anyway, anytime you get the bouquet stuff, they give you this idea of what these flowers look like in real life in Lego form, but they let you know all about them, what they're called, what their actual name is, not just their, we're talking about their scientific name that they were named, not just, you know, Welsh poppy or mother's breath. No, I don't even know if that's a flower, but if it is, I'm going to laugh. If somebody knows that, and send it to me. Anyway, the first three that we're going to talk about are the leatherleaf fern, cow parsley or Queen Anne's lace, and Welsh poppy. So let's talk about the Welsh poppy because this is out of the three, this is the most brilliantly colored done, whatever you want to call it. It's really nice in the way that it is done. Almost every single one of these has a large single Technic axle as long as they can get. This Welsh Poppy, it uses those same kind of bucket cups for the leaves around the top, which is, really nice to be able to have. It is in that yellow color. It is not in a special yellow. It is in yellow, which is always a good thing to be able to have. But then they go ahead and do this weird thing where they're like, you know what? Let's use a car part. Let's use a car part in a flower. Let's use a car part in a flower. I don't know about car parts. But they used a car hub in the cool yellow color. And it's cool looking. It's just chilling in there in the middle. That's it. And then they use a very, very light limeish green colored cone. And then it has a little white topper that is sticking on top of it. I really like the way this is done. You do get a number of these. You just get the 2, but you do get a few of these, which is good. You can always make your own. What is really neat is now the leaf pieces of these, you can only get so many color variations of these. So you do have to keep that in mind. But if you are somebody that's like, you know what, I just want to build fictitious flowers. This is a giant blueprint smacking you right in the face with all of these sets. Anyway, let's move on to the fern, in which you get 3 of, because those are super important. These have the individual sections that are Technic axle, the little red axles axled into place. And then this has a slight bend to it. And then up at the top, you just have, evergreen type pieces that are clipped into place for the most part. And that's it. It's okay. It's that darker green element. It looks fine. It's not anything bad. It's just not anything that I'd be like, oh my God, look at what we have here. Did you notice that we've got this fern? Look how incredibly awesome it is. That's not typically what happens. So then we have to talk about Queen Anne's lace. Queen Anne's lace, you get 2 of these. Again, just like the last, the fern, this is in green. It's not in the darker green, evergreen color here, but you have those little individual pieces to build up the entire stem of this thing. You don't just get a Technic axle. And then at the top of it, you have the reverse flower piece that has the 4 studs that are on top. And then you're basically just attaching little flower segments, little bouquets of flowers to each side of it, and then 1 in the center. So you have 5 in total, which actually looks okay. It's pretty nice. Now they are doubled, so it's not just a single bouquet. It's the 3-fingered little plant piece, and these are just the white flowers. It's nicely done. I like the way that it is done. I really can't complain. The build for that was super simple. None of these so far were anything where I was like, oh man, this is going to challenge my brain. No. So this next one here is lavender, and you have a few lavender. There's 2 that accompany this great set, this great bouquet. And lavender, if you don't know anything about lavender, I love the smell of lavender, but lavender is, it's incredible. It's just it is a beautiful little plant flower, and the smell is just intoxicating. I love it. So what you have here is you have a very long Technic axle stalk, yet again, that is going on here for your stem. As you come up to the top, because the lavender is not very big, it is not a giant flowery bulbous thing that you have. So it kind of, stays very close to the vest of the axle here, the stem. And what they use here is a bunch of simply done 3-pronged purple flowers. When I say pronged, or leaves, not flowers, we're not talking about the actual like plant piece. We're talking about like a leaf piece with the 3 sides to it, the textured leaf that they have. And then you have some light purple flowers, actual flowers that go on top of it. So there are 12 in total for each piece, each flower. And then at the top, you have a little light lavender head, minifig head with a light lavender flower on top of that. Nicely done, real simple, not super difficult. All they do on the inside of those flowers, the leaves, whatever you want to call it, is they just use the 1x1 modified brick that has 4 open holes. And then, that's pretty much all she wrote. It's not very complicated. You just plop that on, and you're done. So moving on, one of the cooler flowers that I enjoy, and I love anything that's wildflower related, because they're just vibrant. We actually have these out on our land. It's further out in the back. And the only reason I know that it is because before we had moved in, weather's still nice and stuff like that. It was like we moved in August, and around, I want to say May-ish, late May, I was coming over often to make sure, just check on, the building and the process where contractors are at and stuff like that. And, as I was walking the property and everything like that, way out in the way back, I came across these, and they're cornflowers, and they're beautifully colored amongst a bunch of other things. There's definitely some wildflowers growing back there, and I can't wait for the spring this year to actually be able to get some really cool pictures. Anyway, so the two cornflower types that you get here, you get a white and then you get blue. So they both use a long axle to be able to get the height out of your vase. So unfortunately, there's really no way you need a vase that is of perfect height. It's not like you can take a section or two out of these. It's all or nothing. So when you get up towards the main section of the plant, they just use a simple little leaf piece upside down here. Use some candlesticks as the fatter part of the stem. Then they use another little piece here, which we've already talked about on the last set, that is supposed to be like that corn stalk ear piece. And that's just holding a little plant, like a little plant sword, if you will, just a little hanging out right there. But inside of this thing, they use one of those open crown pieces in green for the base of the flower. Inside you have a brown minifig head. And then you have all of these white open, what are they? Open-faced crowns. I forget what they called them. And they attach in two different ways. 3 of them, there's 6 in total. 3 of them attach using a bar attachment through the flower, through the bottom of the flower, into the section in the center. And then 3 of them, you put the flower bar through the flower the reverse way, and that clips into place on the inside. So you get 2 different texture ideas there, 2 different looks, 2 different feels. It's really, really sharp. And then in the very center of this, you have a purple 6-pronged plant stem piece that doesn't have any flowers on it. It's just open to that. So that's really nice. Now on the blue one's just a little bit bigger. You have 3 different flowers here, 2 of the same, and then 1 that is not opened yet. It has not completely budded yet. It's just waiting on its time, right? So you come up the stem the same way, flowers at the same direction, candlestick pieces and corn stick pieces. And then you have your brown minifig head, same thing. The one that has not flowered yet just has a little blue flower on the top, but the other 2 are in the exact same build style as the white one, where you have blue on blue with purple on the inside and blue on blue with purple on the inside. Brown minifig head on the inside as well. Same style. They are the same style piece. These are just in blue versus white. I love it. So you get 2 of those, and then you get 1 of the white cornflowers, which is kind of cute looking, just a pair for something different. Moving along, we move to the lupin. You actually get 2 lupins. Maybe they're lupine. I don't know. Something more exotic maybe sounding. I don't know. Anyway, the first thing you notice about this build is how colorful it is, the great parts usage that is used in here, and also how stinking heavy this thing is up at the top. You could have this in your hand and you can definitely feel the weight up there. So this, again, another really long axle, has some building out on the bottom of it with those section pieces and even a section piece up top. So when you get to the very top, or to the actual flower portion, first thing that you notice is, well, you are doing a bunch of hats. You need a lot of hats. A lot of hats. But the design is kind of neat in the way that it is done, is because you have multiple levels, multiple tiers, I guess you could say, of these flower stems or petals, whatever. These pirate hats, petals, pirate hats, flowers, stems. It's all starting to run together, isn't it? But what you're using pirate hats from 1989. I mean, would you ever expect that these would be used on a flower, on a plant? I mean, if anything, that should tell us that we have pirate stuff coming. I mean, right? It almost certainly has to be at this point in time. You get so many hints and stuff like that. Anyway, so you have purple hats, and then you have the magenta colored hats. So that is nice to be able to get a different variance here. But what is cool is on each section, so the very bottom, you have 4 purple, and then just above that, before you get to the next section, you still have 4 purple, more purple that are recessed, which is, oh God, it's gorgeous in the way that it's done. The way they attach them, the attachment pieces just don't stick out as far as the one below it. Same as the one above it. So then you have 4 more above, and then above that, you have 4 more that are recessed above that. And then you have 4 magenta ones that are sticking out quite far, and then 4 recessed magenta pieces, pirate hats, which I love it. And then as you move towards the very top of the flower, they use a lot of that, these little modified 1x1 plates that have like a claw sticking off of it, or tooth, depending on what you're building. And you have 2 layers of those. You have one that's a little bit further, sticking further out, and then the one just above that at the very tippy top is enclosed. So you get 2 of those really nice flowers. The color variation is just, I love it. All right, so we only have a couple flowers left. And the next one I want to talk about is the Gerbera daisies. I'm sure I'm butchering it, but it's okay. It's okay. So you have 2 different colors here. You have a flamish yellow orange, and then you have a magenta. So you get 2 different colors. And we already got a different one on the last set we talked about. So again, you have these long Technic axles, and then this one actually has a slight bend at the top with a little Technic piece here. Then you have these giant green tubs that they use, these like wooden barrel tubs. The exact same way that the Gerbera was built in the other set is exactly the way it is done here, with that steering wheel piece, all the little arm clips that go and attach to the wheel piece, and then you have all the oars, all the oar pieces that you have around that. In the center, again, another hat piece there, so that's really nice. The only difference on the other one is color. You have magenta for the oars, and in this case, you have lavender color for the little attachment arms versus yellow and orange. So really nice stuff. Something else to be able to add to, another bouquet, or you can find a way to maybe take the other Gerbera daisy and doll it up that way. Who knows? I mean, you could really literally do anything. So the last flower is the larkspur. Yeah, larkspur. It sounds dangerous. Like it's got prickers on it. I don't want to touch it. Anyway, this one is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this one is the tallest in the way that it is done. Has a giant axle piece. Again, has some buildup on the bottom, but it has a lot of buildup up through the top of this. So remember how I said about the other flower being heavy? This one is heavy, but it has more rigidity at the top because of how it is built up. Just don't hold it at the very bottom. I mean, it'll be fine. It's just going to look kind of weird. Anyway, so as you move up from the Technic axle, you have 2 giant green leaf pieces. The big ones, they're facing in opposite directions here. Just above that, that's where we start getting into the multi-tiered levels of flowers. So the very bottom level of flowers, you have 3 different flowers here, and they use the green hot dog pieces to actually attach them to the stem of this plant, which is actually kind of cool looking. So the way they accomplish that is by taking 4 of the plant leaf pieces. Stay with me here. This is going to get deep. The plant leaf pieces that have the little 3 leaves, right? Not like a stem piece. And those are upside down to your eye. They are facing inwards to the plant. So those are attached to a 2x2 modified tile, round tile. Those are attached there. And then on the outside of that, so on the receiving stud hole, they attach another one of those upside down plant flower pieces. And what I mean by that is they have the 4 studs on the top, and then they have like a little flower-esque leaf type piece that hangs down off on the side. Now, so that attaches, and then down on the center of this, in the center of that, you have your little white flower. It's a standard Lego flower that we see all the time. And in this case, it is just upside down. So you can see the hole, that's in the center of it that usually goes to like a little stem piece. There's just no regular stem piece for it. So there are 3 of those. Then as you move upward, just ever so slightly, because you don't want to move ever so far. But when you move up ever so slightly, the flowers are actually smaller. Instead of having the 4 leaves, the 4 little leaf pieces, those are exempt here. and it's built the same way. You have a green hot dog holding it onto the stem, and you just have that reversed solid plant flower piece that's upside down, like I said, with the flowers in the middle. Then as you move up above that, here's where we get into the cornstalk type style pieces, the candle with the cornstalk sticking out. And they use the superhero posing bar, which I think is kind of neat, off of there. And then you have minifig heads for your little bulbs of your flowers that have yet to, pop open and, greet the world with their smells, and they're waiting for the insects and stuff. So I really like the way that is done. By the way, there's little blue flowers on the top of them, but it's not true blue. It's the sand blue. Everything on here that's not green is sand blue. And then the mini flowers on the inside are white. So I really like the way that is done. It's a little bit of a different depth perspective. I'm pretty sure I know why they didn't do this, but they only did 3 flowers. I kind of wish it was 4, especially when you move to that mid tier, just because it looks kind of naked, a little bit empty. But I honestly really cannot complain about it that much. So for me, being somebody that has built every single botanical set, I am in love with the color contrast here. With all the amount of different colors that you get here that you can pair with existing plants that Lego has in their line for botanicals, that's even cooler yet. You get a bunch of new flowers, which we have not seen yet. I want to say we've seen the Gerbera daisies before, potentially. I know we've seen roses before. We've seen tulips before, but a lot of cool stuff here. Really unique builds to some of this. Nice parts usage, especially, with the pirate hats, with the oars, with those reverse type eggshell pieces. I love those. It's really, really neat. So where do we stand with all this? Well, I think honestly, for your price point, I think they're solid. They fit in with the rest of the botanical collection as far as price goes. I think they're well within reason of that. The question you really honestly have to ask yourself is, do you want to spend my money here or somewhere else? If you're not a botanicals person, this is, all for naught. You're going to be like, yeah, that's really cool, but I don't really want, to do that. Now there might be some parts in here where you're like, if this goes on sale, I might get it because I could use this part to go with this that I already have an idea of. There's always that stuff that Lego builders are always running through their head, especially mock builders. There's always something that's like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me I get however many pirate hats it is? I think it's like 24 pirate hats or something like that. You mean to tell me I get 24 purple pirate hats and I only have to pay this much? How much am I going to get them on Bricklink for? What if I bought them over here? Can I get them on Bricks and Pieces? That is a constant game that is being played in the head of a mock builder, of a Lego builder in general, anybody that's looking to order pieces or buy sets. Because sometimes you don't just look at a set and say, I need it because. You examine it, you break it down, you're like, I really need it because of that. You know what? I really want it because of that right there. It's just a matter of what are you looking for? What do you want to do with it? But as a whole, I think it's a solid set. It looks great in the vase that I have it next here on the desk with me right now. It's not going to be its permanent home, but yeah, as a whole, I think these sets are pretty good. I like them. I like them for what they are. I definitely like this one better than the tabletop set piece, just because it's not horrible. I just like color. I love color. I love pops of color and stuff like that. And you just have something a little bit different. Now, maybe if it were a bigger size, the last one, yes, maybe. But I can't even say yes or no on that. It feels like a very fall type piece. And then the one we just discussed here, the Wildflowers, feels very much like hey, we're getting ready to go into spring. It's about to get bonkers. Look at all this stuff blooming. And here come my allergies. That's where, it gets you in that headspace. It changes your perception. I'm getting ready for sun and happy and then ungodly heat. And then I'm coming down to, holidays and being shut in because of rain and it's going to get ugly. And so it's just different for everybody. But as a set, I think both of them are solid. And then obviously the little one is what it is. So if you are curious, these are going to be available February 1st. By the time you're hearing this, I'm sure it's after February 1st. So make sure you go look and check them out. You can get them at lego.com or, at the Lego store. I wouldn't be surprised if you can find them at other retailers here before long, as a lot of them seem to be pumping more adult stuff out to different places, especially like Target. So that's going to wrap it up. This is the final episode before the big blow off blow off, blowout, extravaganza, whatever, whatever you want to call it. Vocabulary and me just aren't not fitting today. It's just been one of those days. Been stuck inside due to ice. However, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We'll get back to more regular content on 301. But until then, I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it.